Okay, this is a short introduction to L.A.C.E. L.A.C.E can be used to introduce yourself to individuals in terms of the listening skills. You have to have 2 ears and 1 mouth and use them in that order. The acknowledge section of L.A.C.E, which is listen, acknowledge, check, and inquire, is acknowledge what has been said to the other individual. And number 3 is to check and confirm the details of the person you're speaking to. And number 4 is to inquire and engage with open communications. Particularly when you're dealing with individuals, one needs to understand what one is doing. So let's go back and look at the communication model. The communication model says that we send out information, we encode information, the medium, being the message itself, is transmitted over to the other individual. Thereafter, they decode it and receive that information. What L.A.C.E helps supports us to do is to underpin what's been transmitted, what's been said. So example, if I was to say to you, go down the road to the supermarket and get me some veg and some tin soup, for instance, and you just took my money and went, you wouldn't actually know what tin soup or what veg I required. So what L.A.C.E does, it says, okay, I've listened to what you said, I've acknowledged what you said, now I check. Okay, so when you say veg, what sort of veg do you require me to get for you? When you say tin soup, what sort of tin soup flavors would you like? So it's being specific. When one is communicating, needs to be specific, especially in terms of effective communication. One needs to really understand that communication to be effective needs to be transmitted effectively. If I was speaking to somebody in Italian, I said, io studio italiano alla università per 2 anni, and you didn't speak Italian, you wouldn't understand a word I said, even if you was using the L.A.C.E model. But if I said, could you please rephrase that? Because I don't speak Italian, I speak English. And could you put that into the English language for me? And you said, well, I went to university and for 2 years I studied Italian. And if I, then you would understand straight away precisely what I meant once you could understand the English language. So what we're talking about here is effective communication, communicating in an effective way. And examples, when you're in the pub and people are talking, you hear a lot of noise, but how many people are actually listening to what's being said? You see, human beings have a habit of talking at one another rather than actually listening to each other. Yeah, it's how it works. We talk at one another, but we're not really listening to the party on the other side, unless it's something that we really feel interested in. But for effective communication to take place, one needs to really tune in to what the other party on the other side is saying, and vice versa. All right, so that way, effective communication takes place. Majority of conversations, if you spoke to people and said, what is it that you remember from that conversation, most people would really not be able to remember what they said. And the majority of what they remembered would more than likely be what they had spoke about, not what the other person had spoke about. So we really need to understand that when we're listening to people, effective listening is a key component towards driving effective communication. So always have your antenna up and tune in to what people are saying word for word. Don't just be seen to be listening, but active listening. All right, acknowledge what people are saying. So be able to acknowledge, and it's good for you to anchor in your mind what they're saying and to repeat it back to them in ways of when they're speaking, I get what you're saying, I understand the problem is this or the problem is that, and so forth. The issue is this, the issue is that. And then you can check and underpin that by saying, well, if you're having a problem, what is it within the problem, say, of the IT system or the IT infrastructure that you'd like us to be able to do? I understand the problem, I understand the issues, but what would you like to see as a repair solution? and then engage with the person forthwith. Once you're able to do that, that person feels listened to because they've actually spoken to you in a particular way. And this is the key, all right? That you are repeating back consistently, you're checking consistently, you're inquiring consistently. That's active listening, because communication is such a powerful tool. And so many of us as individuals fail to really communicate effectively. And it's a crying shame. And in business, when we're negotiating, we really need to tune into what the other party said. So many sales are lost. So much relationships are severed because two parties haven't really established themselves on firm footing. And the firm footing being that level of communication from the beginning, truly understanding what each party wants from that particular deal or the basis of the negotiation. They're seeing more the financial aspects of it rather than the actual dotting the I's and T's, and potentially putting it into a written form of communication, being a contract. But more importantly, verbally agreeing what needs to be said and documenting what's been said. So it's essential that when we're in a communication process that we really underpin the transmitted medium so that the other person is actually effectively decoding that message, and also the person on the other side effectively understanding that the message that's being encoded is what they're decoding. So it works two ways. The encoder has to ensure that the person decoding is correctly gathering the information, what they want to put across in the way they want it to put across. And also the person encoding needs to transmit across to the person giving the information that the information that they want decoded is what they're encoding. Therefore, we get the medium being effective communication. And that's the key. So for today, what I want you to do to take away is to really understand when you're next listening to somebody or next engaging, whether it be a friend, family, business, or it could be even in any given situation where you're interacting with people. Really use those two ears and one mouth. Really tune in. And one of the good ways of doing it, I know if you travel on public transport, is tuning into people's conversations and seeing really, is there a dominant party? Is it a balanced conversation? Is it a 70-30 conversation? And balance that out. And imagine yourself in that given situation. It's always good to tune in that way because it gets your antenna up. So use that as a given exercise. Take that away from today. And let's hope going forwards that you'll be able to communicate a lot more effectively with a better balance. And when you're going forwards, your basis of negotiation is you're gonna see the returns on it in your business. All the best.